Your Sagittarius friend just posted 20 stories from an epic party, narrating every dramatic detail as if you've been best friends for decades. But when you try to hit them up the next day, they vanished for 3 days, reading philosophy and replying with one-word texts. Sound familiar? Welcome to the fascinating paradox that makes Sagittarians the most honest and mysteriously complex people in the Zodiac. This matters because if you're dating, befriending, or working with a Sagittarius, understanding this dual nature can save you a lot of confusion and actually deepen your connection with them. Instead of feeling lost in their contradictions, you'll start to recognize the beautiful complexity that makes them unique. It's not deception, it's something far more interesting. Today, we'll explore 3 specific revelations about how Sagittarians operate. First, why they tell you everything, but you still don't really know them. Second, the exact moment they decide to trust you for real. And third, how to recognize when they're finally showing their complete integrated self. As someone who has studied astrological psychology for years and observed countless Sagittarius individuals, I've noticed consistent patterns that explain these seemingly contradictory behaviors. They aren't just random traits. They are deeply rooted in their astrological and psychological makeup. But here's where it gets really interesting. This duality isn't a flaw or manipulation, it's actually their greatest strength. And understanding why requires us to look deeper into what truly drives the Sagittarian psyche. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion, philosophy, and higher learning, creating an inherent need to experience life through multiple perspectives simultaneously. This planetary influence generates what psychologists would call cognitive complexity, the ability to hold contradictory ideas and experiences without feeling internal conflict about them. The key to understanding Sagittarius is to recognize that they operate on 2 distinct levels, the experiential self and the philosophical self. Their experiential self craves adventure, spontaneity, and immediate gratification, while their philosophical self seeks meaning, truth, and deeper understanding. They are not separate personalities. They are integrated aspects of the same complex individual. Think of it like being bilingual in personality. Just as someone can switch between languages depending on the context while remaining the same person, Sagittarius switches between their adventurous and contemplative sides based on what the situation requires. Neither version is false. Both are authentically them. This foundation explains why they can party all weekend and then disappear for days to read philosophy books, or why they can give you brutally honest advice while keeping their own secrets locked away. Now, let's get to the first revelation, why they tell you everything, but you don't really know them. The 2 lives phenomenon in Sagittarius manifests as distinct behavioral patterns. Their public, adventurous persona versus their private, introspective reality. Research in personality psychology shows that mutable fire signs often develop what we call contextual authenticity, being genuinely themselves while adapting to different environments and relationships. Here's a concrete example. Your Sagittarius friend might be the life of the party, telling hilarious stories and seemingly sharing everything. But then you realize you don't actually know their deepest fears or long-term dreams. They're not being fake. They're operating through their social, experiential self while protecting their philosophical, vulnerable self. This can manifest differently depending on their moon sign, ascendant, and life experiences. A Sagittarius with a Cancer moon might be more emotionally guarded, while one with an Aquarius moon might be more intellectually distant. The core pattern remains public engagement, private reflection.
Comment below if you've experienced this. That feeling of knowing a Sagittarius super well, but at the same time feeling like there are layers you've never seen. These experiences help us better understand these complex fire signs. But here's the crucial point. They aren't hiding who they are out of malice. They are protecting the part of themselves they consider most sacred, their inner search for meaning and truth. It's like they have an internal temple where they process all those wild experiences they share so openly. However, this doesn't always work in every situation. During major crises or deep romantic relationships, this duality can create confusion and hurt. Partners might feel shut out when Sagittarius retreats into their contemplative mode, especially after periods of intense sharing and connection. Now we come to the second revelation, the exact moment they decide to trust you for real. There is a specific turning point in relationships with Sagittarius that most people miss. It doesn't happen when they start telling you personal stories. They do that early on. It doesn't happen when they start including you in adventures. That also comes naturally. The real moment happens when they start sharing their philosophical reflections on the experiences they've already told you about. It's when your Sagittarius friend not only tells you about the epic party, but 3 weeks later casually mentions how that night made them think about authenticity in friendships. Or when your Sagittarius partner not only plans the next trip, but shares why travel has become their way of seeking purpose. This moment usually happens between 6 to 12 months of a close relationship, but it can be accelerated if you show genuine interest in their ideas and philosophies, not just their adventures. They are testing your intellectual and emotional depth before fully opening up.
Which of these characteristics do you recognize? The shift in the quality of conversations, the sharing of personal reflections, or perhaps the way they start including you in their moments of introspection? Pause here and think about a Sagittarius you know. Can you identify if you've passed this turning point with them? If not, it doesn't mean anything is wrong, it just means they're still assessing whether you share compatibility on deeper levels. The fascinating part is how they seamlessly integrate these aspects when they feel truly safe and understood. Which brings us to our third and final revelation, how to recognize when they're showing their complete, integrated self. When a Sagittarius finally feels safe enough to be completely authentic, you'll notice a few subtle but significant changes. First, they stop compartmentalizing. Instead of having a separate party mode and philosopher mode, they start blending both naturally. They might philosophize in the middle of an adventure or suggest a spontaneous getaway during a serious conversation. Second, they start including you in their processing rituals. Maybe they invite you on that solo hike where they usually reflect on life, or share that book that's making them rethink everything. This is sacred territory for them. Third, and most importantly, they stop deflecting vulnerability with humor. Not that they lose their sense of humor, they never do, but they stop using jokes as a shield when things get emotionally intense. That's when you know you've truly won them over. To build genuine relationships with Sagittarius individuals, give them space for both sides of their nature without making them feel guilty for their complexity. Appreciate their adventurous stories, while also asking deeper questions that engage their philosophical side. Don't take their need for solitude personally. It's how they process and integrate experiences. If you want to understand them better, pay attention to what they don't say as much as what they do. Notice when they deflect personal questions with humor, or change the subject when things get emotionally intense. These patterns reveal their boundaries, not their deceptions. Realistically, building trust with the Sagittarius takes time, often 6 to 12 months before they show their full integrated self. Don't expect instant emotional intimacy, but do expect incredible loyalty and honesty once they decide you're worth their vulnerability. Their two lives will gradually become one shared life with you. The beautiful truth about Sagittarius is that their duality isn't about living double lives. It's about being whole enough to contain multitudes. Once you understand that, their contradictions become their most charming and authentic quality, making your relationship with them infinitely richer and more meaningful. Now I want to hear your specific stories. Share in the comments about a moment when you realized a Sagittarius was finally opening up completely to you. What was the turning point? How did you know you had moved from a superficial relationship to real trust? Your experiences help our community better understand these complex and fascinating fire signs.